Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. And today we're talking about The Wandering Inn. So I want to go through a couple of things this week. So I've read 2 chapters. I was originally planning on having 2 episodes this week to make up for missing last week's. But then Dune Prophecy came out and I really wanted to record a video for that while the pilot was fresh, so that if that was something that my audience was interested in, then I would be getting to them when they're probably most interested in it, which is after having watched that first episode. People weren't interested in it, so it was a waste of time. However, I'm back with The Wandering Inn now, and I wanted to also talk to you guys about the changing way that I'm going to be talking about this series from here on out. So first thing that I wanted to do is say that The Wandering Inn is staying. It's going to be a feature of the channel, but these episodes are going to stop. So I have been doing the after chapter discussions for The Wandering Inn for over a year now. I've been reading at least 1 chapter a week. At some weeks I was doing like 5 chapters in the early days, but then I went down to just 1 chapter a week. And I have to say, I don't think that was particularly satisfying for me as a reader. And I think it hasn't been as satisfying for you guys as an audience, because the viewing numbers have really dropped off. We used to get like 200 views per episode on The Wandering Inn, and now sometimes we're struggling to hit 60 or 70. And I think that there's 2 sides to this. So the drop in view numbers clearly shows that as an audience, you guys aren't really interested in these single chapter video discussions, which is a shame, because I had this grand plan and I was like, imagine if in, a few years time, you can go on the channel and you can read The Wandering Inn week by week and have, finish a chapter, watch a discussion, finish a chapter, watch a discussion. And that's how I like to read books, not per chapter, but when I finish a book, one of the first things I do is seek out reviews for it, or spoiler discussions, things like that. I just like to marinate in the book a little bit. And while I have enjoyed recording the discussions, I think that it's time to think about the best way to apply my very limited time to create YouTube videos and to read books. So I'm going to get up to the clown chapters. So I'm going to go, let me check, I had it up here. So I am going to get up to chapter 27 of The Wandering Inn ebook, which is 2.2, chapter 26 on the website, because I counted the original interlude as chapter 1 for the ebook and audiobook, which is weird. So I'm going to get up to chapter 26 of The Wandering Inn, volume 2, and then these weekly episodes are going to stop. So I've currently read up to chapter 21. So I would imagine next week is going to be 22 and 23. Then the week after will be 24 and 25, and the week after that will be 26 and 27. And that will mostly take us to the end of the year, and the schedule on the channel is going to be changing next year anyway. But yeah, so that'll take us all the way there. I would really like to have another chat with Lion from Hobbies of a Man about the first half of volume 2, which is what everyone said, get to the clown chapters and then have another chat. So that's what I'm planning on doing. Then from there on, The Wandering Inn will be shifting from being a weekly series on the channel to being another big fantasy series that I'm reading. So I have, in the back of my head, I've been looking at the word counts and stuff, and it looks like the way that Pirate Arbor is chopping up the books is into 300,000 word sections. So the average 300,000 word book takes me around a week to read. I'm not going to commit to saying I'm going to read one a month, because I did that with Wheel of Time, and honestly, sometimes stuff gets in the way and I haven't been able to read it. But the ideal will be for me to try and get as up to date as possible. I think that on the current trajectory, someone commented and said, look, on the current trajectory of the way that you're making episodes, it's going to take you 10 years to catch up with Pirate Arbor. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to be reading this series when I'm like in my late 40s. So, not anything to do with age or whatever like that. I just think that while I'm in BookTube for the long haul, 10 years is a very long haul. So, next year, the whole structure and schedule of the channel is going to change. I don't know whether I'm going to start before it becomes 2025, but it is really going to shift around. So at the moment, I make 5 videos a week, and I think I'm probably going to go down. So I was thinking about going down to 4 or maybe even 3. And the Wandering Inn content is basically going to shift from being the weekly chapter discussions to being a semi-regular series. And what I want to do with these is do a video full review. They're going to be full spoiler in the same way that these chapter discussions have been. So I'm going to be doing full spoiler reviews for each book. Could be going in depth into each book, and I think that will actually be more of a benefit because I can go into more depth because I'll have just read the book rather than having read the book over like 8 or 9 months. So I think this will also be a little bit more conducive for me when it comes to being able to do stuff like, say for example, the chapter discussions. When the chapters get up to like 80,000 words or whatever, it's actually quite hard for me to read anything else in a week. So I think it makes more sense for me to say, right, I'm going to be reading, and I'm still going to be reading the ebook volumes. That's my preferred method. And the goal will be to catch up to where the ebook stuff is. I'm going to say hopefully now, and put a very hopeful 2026 target on that. So ideally I'll finish book 2, Fey and Fair, which I've got on the old Kindle right here. So book 2, Fey and Fair. Ideally I will finish this by the end of the year. So December is a wild month for me in terms of I have got a lot of book of the year content to do. I've also got Wind and Truth, which is a very big book. It's like the biggest book Sanderson's ever written. But I am going to try and read that one in December, and then something smaller, funner and sci-fi, and then shift over to reading The Wandering Inn, with the goal of finishing volume 2, Fey and Fair, by the end of the year, which will also actually finish me on the whole of volume 2 on the web serial as well, because volumes 1 and 2 are ebooks 1 and 2. It's once we get to volume 3 that the splits start happening. So I've got the chart. So I've got a chart here, and chart actually shows us as having the prediction is that to finish volume 9 on the web serial is going to be 39 books, which is insane. And it looks like we're basically getting 10 chapters a book, and the books are like 300,000 words. So, and we've got, as I said, so there's estimated, there's an estimated, I've got my laptop here, by the way, which is why I'm looking down. So I could hold it up and then you guys could like see me scroll, but that's not very, none of this is very cinematic. This is a very chaotically disorganized video. Although actually it's not very disorganized because I wrote notes. So so each volume of the ebook is between, I think the lowest one is like 260,000, and the largest is like 425, 450,000 words. So currently 14 books have been published. The 14th book came out this week, and my thought process is I can probably get to book 14 by the end of 2026. And now that would obviously be a lot faster than I'd be reading if I was reading it just as the weekly chapter discussions. In an ideal world, and this is one of the things that I floated when I talked about the series initially, I was like, oh, I can read 4 or 5 chapters a week. It'll take me a few years to catch up, like 2 or 3 years, but when I catch up, I will start doing like weekly chapter coverage for the Wandering Inn, and that is actually the goal of Wandering Inn Reading now. Is so there's a channel that I really like called Murphy Napier, which is run by Murphy Napier, and she every week will read the new One Piece chapter, and then she'll put up a video talking about what happened. And I would like to get to that point for the Wandering Inn. That is the goal. The goal is to try and catch up to the ebooks by the end of 2026, which again will still put me 3 volumes behind, and that is just as a that is 6,000 words. That's over. No, it's okay. It's actually almost. So it's basically 8,000 words. So that still leaves me 8,000 words behind. No, wait. 8,000 or 80,000? No, 8,000 words? No. Oh, it might be 8 million words. I'm not actually too sure on the maths here. Basically, Volume 7 is 2,092,000 words. Volume 8 is 2,812,000 words, and Volume 9 is 2,928,000 words. So if we look at the stuff like comparing it to Volume 1, which I have read, that was 455,000 words. So we're looking at, like 4 times each. So Volume 7, which is the shortest and has not been started in ebook yet, is 4 times the length of Volume 1. So my thinking is, right, so if I can catch up, and like I said, in an ideal world, 2026, at the end of 2026, I will catch up to the published ebook volumes. By that point, there'll also be more ebook volumes. My plan for 2025 is that my major book series that I'll be reading will be Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. I think after that, my plan is probably to go to Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings, and then I feel like, having read the Cosmere, Wheel of Time, Malazan, Realm of the Elderlings, I feel like those are the big series. Like, that's the mega series done. So from then on, I don't know where I'm going to go. I'm probably going to go to shorter stuff, because there isn't any longer stuff, really. I mean, like The Wandering Inn, despite being, much longer than Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time is like 15 books. I don't know where I was going with that point. Anyway, so despite despite the Wheel of Time being one of the longest fantasy series ever, it's not even a touch on Wandering In. So yeah, my plan is to kind of weave Wandering in through all of these read-alongs. If I read one a month, I would definitely be able to get up to date by 2026, but we'll see, because I have currently 14 books published, I have 12 left, so if I read one a month, and then obviously there'll probably be 3 or 4 published in between now and then, because there's been 3 published in 2024, so in 2025 there'll probably be 3 or 4 more. Maybe by the end of 2026 volume 7 will be finished in ebook and audiobook, and then I'll go and read that. It's a big adventure, and I hope that you guys will continue to subscribe to the channel and continue to follow along with the big adventure. I think that reading on an ebook by ebook basis, which is kind of how Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews is reading it, and he's a major inspiration for my channel, honestly. Reading on that book by book basis will enable me to be able to do more spoiler discussions, will enable me to have higher quality reviews, and will make my personal reading experience better. I've been having a bit of a struggle with some of Volume 2, I've not been loving it as much, so switching to reading full books, I think, will be a better way for me to do it. So let me know down in the comments. So we're at the halfway point now. This is a very long video because I haven't even started talking about the chapters yet, and I've got a couple of pages of notes about the chapters. I actually wrote notes this time. So moving on, what I want to do is, if you have thoughts, comments, concerns about the change in the series, please drop down in the comments below. The other thing I wanted to say is that when I'm reading it in this book form, once I've read more of it, I will feel more comfortable doing stuff like lore and world building videos. So like my favourite races in the Wandering In, my favourite characters in the Wandering In, things like that. Whereas at the moment I'm so far behind, I feel like nothing I have to say is worthwhile or important. So yeah, that's another big thing that I want to do, is more content around the Wandering In, not just spoiler discussions and chapter videos and stuff. So yeah, hope that all makes sense. Let's talk about chapter 20 and 21. So really interesting chapters. We've got a nice blend of Ryoka and Eren again. I feel like this volume, we've not really been having the like separated perspectives from the both. Often there's some chapters which are just Eren, some chapters which are just Ryoka, but I feel like they're kind of like the dual protagonists now, and they're like, because they're the dual protagonists, it's like you kind of just have, most chapters have something from either of them. Like, as I said, there are some chapters that are like all Ryoka, but when they're in the same place, definitely the perspective just kind of flips back and forward, which I don't love. I would just prefer the classic fantasy novel style of like, this chapter is this point of view, you know. Chapter 20 is mostly Ryoka, according to my notes, because I did, the one thing I do have to caveat is the reason I had to write notes is because I read these chapters over the weekend, and it's now like Tuesday as I record this, so hopefully that all makes sense. So first off, Ryoka is still struggling with the leveling system, and this is something that like I am annoyed with. So like, she knows that it's better. Like, there's no like idea and we read from her perspective, we see her thoughts, that she doesn't have any ideas as to why her way of doing things is better. So I don't know why she isn't going for it at this point, why she isn't letting herself level. And people have talked in the comments and online about how she as a character is very annoying because she won't take part in leveling, blah, blah, blah. So I assume that she's never going to do this leveling stuff. And there's a big chat about magic with Cheeria, where Cheeria's like, oh, you don't need to level to do magic. And it's like, magic still feels like a crutch to me. Like, leveling is a crutch, which is why Ryoka doesn't want to use it. Somebody put in the comments like, oh, she sees it as something, and I'm like, well, whatever way that she sees magic, sees leveling, I don't know why she doesn't see magic as like leveling and skills. Like, you still have to work hard to gain levels, you still have to challenge yourself to gain skills. I don't understand it. Like, I don't think that Pirate Arbor has communicated to me in what I have read. What you guys have read maybe is more clear, but from where I am, I don't feel like I know why she's not engaging anymore, especially if she's going to use magic. She's going to use magical abilities or items. Like, honestly don't know. So she learns how to do some different spell stuff. She learns how to make her spells stronger. Again, very interesting. Cheeria also has been... Cheeria and Olism seem to have slept together. I don't know whether it was super clear before, but it definitely seems to be now. And she says that she's interested in Olism, and Ryoka's like, and Cheeria's like, oh, but I think Olism is interested in Erin, and Ryoka's like, Erin's not interested in Olism. So that's fun. That hopefully will do something going on. We also see that Ryoka, sorry, I don't know why I'm talking about Ryoka. We also see that the Frost Fairies hate half-elves. Interesting. I really like the concept of half-elves, and I like Erin talks about, I don't know whether it was in chapter 20 or 21, but Erin talks about her, like, getting... One second. Erin talks about getting to grips with Cheeria's heritage, and that, like, one half of her is elf or whatever, and I thought that was an interesting thought that Erin was having, that she's like, oh, I don't think about this very often, but being half elf is really cool. Sorry, well, the whole family is sick at the moment, so I'm drinking a lot more water than usual. I decided to buy a big bottle of water this morning. Yeah, so we then have the Frost Fairies they're like pulling Cheeria's hair out, they're being awful to Cheeria, and we already hated the Frost Fairies, but now we like triple hate them because we in this house love Cheeria. I think she's fantastic. The only issue I have with Cheeria is the Irish accent that Andrea Parsino does for her. It is a bit... a lot of the voices that Andrea Parsino does are a little annoying to me personally. I don't tend to read the audiobook. I do tend to read the ebook version. So when I come to one of the voices, I'm like, oh, this is a bit annoying. Complete tangent, by the way. I'm sure somebody talked about on a Wandering In video that I watched that there was going to be a Kickstarter physical volume 1. I'd love to buy that. Is that not happening anymore? I don't know what's going on with that. Someone in the comments, like, let me know. Physical volume 1 of Wandering In. I don't want to Google it because I'm literally recording a video with you guys now, but, like, let me know. So, and I may forget by the end of the video. We then... Ryoka punches a fairy. Brilliant. They deserve it. But then they chase her off. And then Klivich turns up to the inn with a ton of Antinium and is like, time to train my boys and make them individuals. And Erin's like, this isn't going to work because the other Antinium wanted to play. These Antinium are being forced to play, so they're not learning and growing and developing, which is really interesting. I like the way that Erin is looking at things in that way. Finally, we get a little bit more development in the princess story, which I feel like has been going on for like months. And the princess is captured by Kershia, but she also burns down Kershia's store. So very, very interesting chapter. Lots going on. I quite liked the bits with Ryoka and Churia. I like that. The like learning magic stuff. It's always nice to get some little world building tidbits on magic systems and stuff. And also, I forgot to mention Churia's skeletal hand can cast magic and move, which is very cool visually. Like the imagined visual I have for that is pretty dope. Chapter 21 starts with a dream sequence with a lady in silver and a mysterious golden sword that is in a stone coffin. There's been a lot of King Arthur stuff in recent chapters, which is very interesting. I like Arthurian myths and am interested in seeing where Wandering In is going with them, but it feels like the fairies know the Arthurian legend. And my thought is like, is what we're going to have something similar to like Battlestar Galactica, where like people in different timelines and universes come up with the same stories and the same myths and legends? Or is this that there has always been travel between our world and the in-world, and that's where King Arthur has come from those people who've either King Arthur is an in-world legendary king and it's real, or they've brought the myth from our world to in-world. Very interesting conceptually. Would love to read more. I'm going to. Chapter 21 even. Next chapter looks real good. Ghazi POV. I've started reading it, but I didn't have enough time to finish reading it and record this video, hence not discussing it. So, Erin touches a frost fairy and feels great, and the frost fairy talks to her about how magic works and is like, you don't need to cast spells or do dumb shit like that. Like, magic is just in you, it's in the world. Which does lead me down the line of like, maybe something interesting is going to happen with Erin and her magical impotence, her lack of magic. Erin then is like, I'm going to, like, she realizes she has to do a banquet for the fairies, and she has to do it all using magical ingredients and like doing like everything with her own hands because she's a virgin, which is very funny. And she's paid in a massive pile of gold coins, which is like overflowing the table. It's like thousands and thousands of gold coins. And Erin's like, yes, finally, brilliant. And Torrin's like, no, it's a trap, it's a trap. But she like sends him away. And then in the morning, the gold coins turn to flowers, which is real dumb. Erin gains some new skills, which is very cool, including one that's called Wondrous Fair. So that is obviously to be able to create like magical or magic adjacent stuff. And that was, again, very interesting. This chapter was a little bit weaker than the previous chapter, aside from the dream sequence, which I really loved. Kershia's lets Erin know what's going on and is like, yeah, my whole stall is burnt down and I've got nothing left. And that's very sad. But maybe that means Kershia is now going to be around the inn a bit more, and maybe she'll be like a full-time member of staff, perchance. Maybe that's what we're leading to. yeah, really liked the interwovenness as well in these chapters of the Rags POV from the previous chapter. I think it's actually in chapter 20 where that happens. And that was really good. I really liked that, and I like seeing scenes from 2 points of view. That's something that I love in books, and I want way more of that from Wandering In. Please do more of that. I think that might be everything. I know that I've kind of gone through the chapter discussion quite quickly, but as I said, unfortunately, I did read these a few days ago, and I'm running off of notes. If you have stuff that I've missed that you would like me to talk about or whatever, then we can have a chat down in the comments down below. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the evolution of this series from chapter discussion to volume discussion, and with the eventual goal of trying to catch up. That's where I'd really like to be. And maybe it'll be a couple of years down the line, but I would really like to get there. And I know that volume 7 and 8 and 9 are like 10,000 times longer than the previous volumes, but I feel like we're going to get there, and I would really like to get there. So please do chat with me down in the comments below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on everything related to the Wandering In. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you haven't liked this video, please give it a like and let me know that you've liked it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.